Hello, good afternoon. I'm Rachel with Higher Health Now with Rachel on Solivity Magazine TV, and today you are tuning in and watching me from my parents' back porch. I am in Valley Cottage, New York. Usually I'm in Asheville, North Carolina, but this week I'm very grateful that my parents got vaccinated and that there's rapid testing here in New York. So it's nice to know that I'm negative, what I'm doing is working, and that I can come and visit my family for Passover. So I am up in New York this week. So thanks for joining me on my parents' back porch where I grew up. So I'm just gonna dive right in. First, I just want to say thank you again so much. And for those of you that maybe this is your first time joining me today, I am a yoga teacher of 14 years and counting. I don't ever see myself stopping anytime soon. I also hold a degree in clinical nutrition and have been a health and wellness enthusiast my entire life. I also just feel very privileged to share my knowledge and passion for health with all of you. And my vision for this show, Higher Health Now with Rachel, is for you to have a place where you can find your definition of health and self-love and ultimately tap into your true self. So I just would like to start by saying, please friend request me on Facebook, follow me on Instagram. I would love to be able to connect with you offline if you're watching this, and if at any point you have a question or a challenge that you're going through specifically, please take down my email address and send me an email. I'd love to hear from you and I'd love to connect. All right, today's episode, we're talking specifically about deciphering food labels, which I know is a great topic for most people who are out shopping and not really sure what to look for when it comes to eating healthy. So today I'm going to crack the code. First, a quote. If you've been watching my show, you know I love quotes. Modern food manufacturers have overwhelmed store shelves with foods that are nutrient poor, rotten, spoiled, dead, old, and contaminated with antibiotics, chemicals, and growth hormones. Refining has also brought us spectacularly cheap, pervasive, and fattening ingredients, namely white flour, white sugar, high fructose corn syrup, and industrial seed oils. These fake foods distort your appetite and cause you to consume more calories than you require. This perpetuates a vicious cycle of stuffing your face, but never feeling totally satisfied or nourished by it. And that's a quote from the book, The Wild Diet, Abel James. So let's just back up a sec and just discuss what are processed foods. Have you ever looked at the list of ingredients on a food package and realized you had no idea what they were? Food labels usually read more like a list from a science experiment than a list of ingredients we actually recognize. You'll reap the benefits of eating healthy whole foods even more when you also reduce the processed foods. After all, you want your body to benefit as much as possible from the food you eat, right? So why not processed foods? Processed foods have been altered from their natural state. They are varying degrees of processed food, but minimally processed to highly processed. Generally, the less processing a food has undergone and the fewer the ingredients in packaged products, the more nutritious it will be. The more processing a food has gone through, the fewer nutrients it actually retains. This means more empty calories that provide little to no nutritional benefit. Processed foods tend to be low in nutrients and high in calories. They also probably don't keep us full for very long, so we're hungry again a short time later. This actually will increase cravings for more processed foods. Most are designed with convenience in mind, so they can be eaten quickly anywhere while driving, working at the office, watching TV. and require little or no preparation. Processed foods are also highly processed foods, including snack foods and desserts such as candy, chips, ice cream, cakes, etc. This category also includes frozen entrees, sodas, breads, pasta, and cereal. Highly processed animal products include most deli meats, chicken nuggets, hot dogs, and some sausages and burgers. Many vegetarian alternatives to meat are also highly processed, so you want to kind of, minimize the consumption of those. So now let's talk about minimally processed foods. Fruits, vegetables, legumes, nuts, seeds, whole grains, meat, and fish are often sold in minimally processed or non-processed forms, although each of these also have processed versions. These foods are often not substantially changed from their raw, unprocessed form and retain most of their nutritional value. Now, let's look at this list when these are the effects of food additives. So this is something that I found studies show that food additives actually can affect digestion, your appetite, or lack of food additives actually increase your appetite. Also affect your brain function, can cause brain fog, memory, weight gain, quality of sleep, concentration, as well as ADD and ADHD. Energy levels, gut flora, depleting the good bacteria necessary for assimilation of nutrients, and deficiencies of micronutrients. That's quite the list, isn't it? So another quote from this awesome book, The Wild Diet, I highly recommend it. Perhaps the most effective strategy in losing fat is to stop eating man-made processed food products and start eating real food. Real food is perishable. If it can last on the shelves for extended periods of time or comes in a box, be wary. Processed foods can cause micronutrient deficiencies. This is something that is very interesting. So not consuming enough vitamins, minerals, and essential fatty acids prevents us from getting the minimal daily requirement of what our body needs. This can lead to disease and chronic health problems. And processed foods are lacking in the nutrients our bodies need to function properly, especially if our goal is improved overall health or weight loss. It's not realistic for most of us to never eat processed foods, but it's very realistic to dramatically reduce the amount of these poor quality foods. Once healthier choices become automatic, you won't miss the processed choices because you'll be feeling so much better. So, very important initial step is just become more aware of what you're eating. Did you know that the food industry allows more than 3,000 food additives to be used in the processing of our food? These additives are used to help improve the taste, texture, consistency, and visual appeal of food, as well as extend the shelf life. These processes can cause allergic reactions and stress on the liver to process such chemicals, many of which are cancer forming. Children exposed to such processes can become hyperactive and display learning difficulties. The best advice is to avoid foods with health claims on their labels. Read that again, because it's very important, and I believe demands emphasis. The best advice is to avoid foods with health claims on the labels. Better yet, avoid foods with labels in the first place. Industrial processing has given rise to an array of additive, fattening, metabolism jamming chemicals and compounds, including MSG, aspartame, high fructose corn syrup, and trans fats to name the biggest offenders. Researchers use MSG to study obesity. MSG is an excitotonin, so that stimulates the brain into wanting to eat uncontrollably. When fed to laboratory mice, the mice pig out and get fat. MSG is in 80% of all processed foods, mostly disguised as natural flavoring. And that's from Hungry for Change. I always have to add a little bit of humor into these because they can get kind of heavy. But how to decipher food labels. So I'm going to talk to you now just about, okay, you understand the importance, you understand what it can do to your body or to your family's health. So let's talk about how to decipher food labels. Learning to decipher food labels is important so you can be more aware of what you're eating and you can make the most informed decisions. Unfortunately, the food labeling laws in this country make it difficult to determine if a food is healthy for us or not at first glance. We have to dig deeper and do a little detective work, but it's worth the effort. The front of the package is designed to sell you the product. It's an advertising billboard and can be very deceiving. To know what's in the food you're buying, you want to read the ingredient list, not the claims on the front of the package. And this is a wonderful quote from the Institute for Integrative Nutrition. Did you know that these convenience foods, which commonly come with unpronounceable ingredients, may come at a dangerous price? Various food additives and chemicals have shown side effects which range from nausea and headaches to more serious conditions such as cancer, Alzheimer's, and multiple sclerosis. Be sure to read ingredient labels carefully and consume more whole foods. Words like natural, whole grain, fresh, fat-free, low fat are most often actually what you want to avoid. I know it sounds crazy, but be suspicious and dig a little deeper for the facts. Food companies are allowed to promote benefits on the front of the package that are not necessarily true. For example, a food can contain MSG disguised under other names. There are more than 40, but the packaging can claim no MSG. We'll go on into the list of these names in a bit. Before we put any packaged items in our shopping cart, we need to ask ourselves if it's real food. For example, are there only 1 to 5 ingredients that you recognize? Or is it a food-like substance, not real food, but more like a chemistry experiment? It matters very much what we put into our bodies, especially if optimal health is our goal. It's also important to look at the sugar and sodium content. Fat can be replaced with sugar, and the sodium content can be very high in processed food since salt is used as a way to preserve food and keep it from spoiling. Let's talk about some top offenders and some controversial ingredients. So I specifically want you to watch out for these and avoid them at all costs. First is high fructose corn syrup, which has been shown to damage immune function, speed up the aging process, and contribute to weight gain. Found in everything from crackers to bread, chips, yogurt, sauces. I'm amazed at how many products actually do contain high fructose corn syrup. Next, refined sugar. People in the US consume about 130 to 160 pounds of sugar per year. In other words, we're consuming half a cup of sugar a day, and most of us aren't even aware of it. High consumption of sugar and the corresponding elevated insulin levels can cause weight gain, bloating, fatigue, arthritis, migraines, lowered immune function, obesity, cavities, and cardiovascular disease. It can also disrupt absorption of nutrients, possibly leading to osteoporosis, depression, PMS symptoms, and stress. Trans fats. So these are found in hydrogenated oil or partially hydrogenated oil. According to the Harvard School of Public Health, trans fats cause about 50,000 premature heart attacks, deaths per year. These fats also increase the risk for cancer, obesity, depression, asthma, osteoporosis, and more. Trans fats are found in cookies, cakes, frozen food, crackers, chips. It looks like the US government is finally taking steps to eliminate the use of trans fats in our food supply. So this step is going we're going in the right direction for sure. And MSG. So MSG stands for monosodium glutamate. You'd be very surprised to know where the substance lurks. It's usually disguised under other names like yeast extract, autolyzed yeast extract, hydrolyzed vegetable protein, carrageenan, sodium caseinate, soy protein, and a few others, including natural flavorings. Natural flavoring doesn't always mean MSG, but oftentimes it does. It's very common to find MSG in soups, sauces, crackers, flavored chips, etc. Studies show that mice injected with MSG increased their food intake by more than 40%. MSG is a known obesogen, which causes obesity, and studies have shown that MSG is also a neurotoxin, which is very toxic to our nervous system. Not only does hydrolyzed vegetable protein, one of the names MSG is disguised as, contain 3 very powerful brain cell toxins, glutamate, aspartame, and citric acid, but it also contains several known carcinogens. Incredibly, the FDA does not regulate the amount of carcinogens allowed in hydrolyzed vegetable protein or the amount of hydrolyzed vegetable protein that's allowed to be added to food products. This substance poses an even greater danger than MSG itself. Talk about sulfites. Sulfites destroy vitamin B1, which is important for mental clarity and heart health. They are commonly found in processed lunch meats as well as beer and wine. Look for lunch meat such as Applegate Farms Organics that don't contain sulfites. Artificial flavors and colors. In its 58-page report, Food Dyes: A Rainbow of Risks, the Center for Science in the Public Interest revealed that 9 of the food dyes currently approved to use in the United States are linked to health issues ranging from cancer and hyperactivity to allergy-like reactions, and these results were from studies conducted by the chemical industry itself. For instance, red number 40, which is the most widely used dye, may accelerate the appearance of immune system tumors in mice, while also triggering hyperactivity in children. Blue number 2, which is used in candies, beverages, pet foods, and more, was linked to brain tumors. And yellow 5, used in baked goods, candies, cereal, and more, may not only be contaminated with several cancer-causing chemicals, but it's also linked to hyperactivity, hypersensitivity, and other behavioral effects in children. There are in many products, including Gatorade, sodas, frozen treats, flavored chips, fruit snacks, candies, and etc. Artificial sweeteners. So did you know that artificial sweeteners can actually cause your good gut bacteria by as much as 50%? Artificial sweeteners have also been found to spike insulin and leptin levels. This can cause weight gain even though you are drinking a 0-calorie drink. Leptin is a hormone that tells your body it's full. When this hormone is overstimulated, your body does not get the message as early that you are satisfied, leading to consuming more food than you normally would. The sweetness tells your brain that calories and micronutrients are coming in. However, when they don't arrive, your body shouts out for nutrients and sends you on a quest to find more. And that's from Rich Food, Poor Food by Jason and Mira Calton. BHA and BHT. So these are butylated hydroxyanisole and butylated hydroxytoluene. These are 2 food additives commonly used in the food industry to prevent oils from going rancid. So studies have shown that BHA has caused stomach-focused carcinogens in trials involving mice, hamsters, and rats. The U.S. Department of Health and Human Services has deemed BHA reasonably anticipated to be a human carcinogen. BHT is slightly less harmful than BHA, but should still be replaced with safer alternatives. Just better to avoid them altogether. And GMOs, genetically modified organisms, which are plants or animals that have had their DNA modified. In the US, the majority of the corn, wheat, soybean, cotton, and canola crops are now genetically modified, and 1 or more of these can be found in nearly every processed food. GMOs have not been proven safe, And some studies show GMOs may decrease immunity to decrease immunity to diseases in plants as well as humans. They may also cause resistance to antibiotics and could have a negative impact on genetic function. Plants that are genetically modified to be resistant to disease, pesticides, and insecticides could diminish the need to use these strong chemicals. Conversely, they may build up a resistance and therefore require even larger amounts of chemicals than before. For our current list of GMO foods, you can visit the Environmental Working Group at www.ewg.org. And that's the sources. The above list of food additives was adapted from the Institute for Integrative Nutrition. Okay, so now that I gave you all that, let's look at this list of additives we have. And we have to wonder how our food supply has become so far removed from what nature intended. None of our great-grandparents would recognize any of these ingredients, that's for sure. It has become clear that the chemicals that are allowed in our foods are a big part of the health crisis in this country. It's also sad but true that these additives are allowed in our food. Some countries have banned most of these ingredients from their foods. The good news is we get to choose what we eat. And the more knowledge we have, the more power we have to tip the health scale in our favor. We get to vote with our dollars every time we make a trip to the grocery store. Stores like Whole Foods, Trader Joe's, Sprouts have a bigger selection of whole foods. The best bet is to stick with organic, non-GMO, unprocessed, and minimally processed foods as much as possible. If you pick up a food and there's a long list of ingredients, as a rule, that means more than 5, or you see ingredients you wouldn't find in your kitchen, I would put it back and find something that will contribute to you rather than deplete your health and well-being. This is a wonderful app. I really like it. It's called Fujicate, which can help you do the detective work. You can scan the barcode with your phone and get valuable information as to the quality of the food and help you make the best decision. Okay, what's next? I hope you don't feel too overwhelmed. So rather than feeling overwhelmed with all this information, just become more aware, right? You can start with something as simple as reading food labels at the store. Maybe work on one meal at a time and implement more whole foods during the day. Decide what you want to start with first. You don't have to do it all at once. You can just start with one thing, and once that's in place, move on to the next thing. You can decide you want to eliminate high fructose corn syrup, for example. Oh, bless me. Once that's in place, move on to the next one that you want to eliminate. It may not be realistic to completely eliminate all processed foods these days. However, the more whole foods you can add into your diet, the better. There are almost always healthier versions of what you like. It may not be realistic to completely eliminate all processed foods these days. However, the more whole foods you can add into your diet, the better. There are almost always healthier versions of what you like. You deserve the best. Eat more real food. When we eat more whole foods, real food, our bodies are satisfied. And as a result, we end up consuming fewer calories and get more of what we need to stay healthy, prevent and fight illness, and maintain a healthy weight range. Your health is not something you biologically lose as you age. It is something you build or give away a little each day in what you do and what you don't do. Okay, so let's talk about getting started today, your to-dos for this week. I want you to check out the packaged items in your pantry, right? And read the food labels to see what you find just from what you've learned from today. And try the Fujicate app. It's a free download and you can absolutely use it on your own items in your home now. Become more aware of the chemical additives in your foods that you purchase by reading the ingredient list on the back of the package rather than trusting the billboard advertising on the front of the package. Find healthier alternatives to the processed foods. It doesn't have to be all at once, just pick 1 or 2 at a time. The processed food or ingredient I'm going to start eliminating first is, and fill in the blank. It could be high fructose corn syrup, MSG, GMO, or sugar, refined sugar, any of the things that we mentioned today. All right, thank you so much. I'm sorry, I'm like half sun, half shadow as the sun is moving this afternoon. But I just wanted to make sure that everybody can see my face while I was presenting. I hope you have a wonderful rest of your day. I look forward to seeing you next week. Peace.